sex and cookies. This week begins our sex month here on TheRealvolution. It's been really neat seeing what the others have done so far, and I'm really looking forward to what's going to be happening the rest of the week. So this week we're talking about sex and sexuality, mostly about sexuality and what that really means to us. And Sophie was very thorough yesterday, very scientific, very table of elements about it, which was great. And I'm going to talk today about sort of my own experiences. For me, and I think for gay people in general, there's a time when you discover your sexuality, and then there's also a time where you discover that what you are attracted to is not what others are attracted to. I can't really remember when I realized that I was attracted to men, when the male aesthetic was pleasing to me, you know what I mean? But I think it was at a pretty young age, and I think that's normal. But I can pinpoint when I realized that what I liked was very different from what other people liked. So I had just gone to the fair with my babysitter, and she had won one of those, you know, in the 90s they had those posters of like muscle men in overalls painting or whatever. And I remember her showing us the poster, you know, showing us what she had won. And I remember pointing to one of the guys and being like, I like that guy. And she said, you're not supposed to like that. Cut to 20 years later, and I was still under the impression that I was not supposed to like that. So that really sort of set the tone for me at a young age, knowing that you like men, you're not supposed to, so why don't you act like you like women? Luckily, I wasn't popular enough to require a girlfriend. In that regard, I wasn't really questioned, but I certainly wasn't out at all. I was out to myself, but I wasn't out to anyone else for a very long time. And I've talked about that before, so we'll put that aside. But I've also talked before about how I'm a very anxious person and a very nervous person, and I think a lot of that comes from feeling as though I had to hide this part of myself away and keep it very secret because I wasn't supposed to feel like that. So especially as I got older and sort of more into sort of puberty and beyond that, and to the point where others around me were having sex and that kind of thing, I realized that I had to start explaining why. I'd also like to set the background that I grew up in small town Montana as well. Which, in a town that likes to think of itself as liberal, but in actuality, it is not. So the label that I gave myself for when people, or if people ever asked me about my sexuality, was asexual. And I do think that that's a very valid sexuality, and I think that there are lots of people who are truly asexual, but that wasn't the case for me. I was just terrified of coming out. So when people asked me, which was very rare, I would say that I was asexual. And then in college, you know, to some people I was like, well, maybe I'm bisexual, completely knowing that that was a lie, you know. But somehow it felt safer to say that, which is another reason why, this is an aside, but I think that's another reason why bisexuality sort of gets a bad rap, is because a lot of gay people, when they're coming out, use that as a stepping stone. Which is one of the reasons why bisexuality sort of is considered a myth to some gay people. I'm going to talk about that next week, probably, but anyway, for now, I'm still talking about me. It really wasn't until after college that I decided to come out, which also means that I wasn't sexually active until after college. So I spent all this time being afraid of sex, but now sex is a very important part of my life, and it's important to me. Sexuality and being able to express that freely is also very important. Definitely my perception of sex, and my perception of sexuality has changed a lot. So that's really my spiel on sex and sexuality this week. Next week and the week after that, we're just going to talk about whatever we want, so you're going to get a bunch of really great varied topics. And then the last week of Sex Week we're saving for questions. So you guys, please keep sending us in questions. We've gotten some really amazing ones already, so that's fantastic. One last word of advice. If your child ever sees a picture of their same sex and says, "I like that," please do not tell them that that is not what they are supposed to like, because then they'll get messed up for a very long time. A word of advice from me to you. Anyway, have a good night, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.